Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about a word you hear all the time: globalization. It sounds great, a connected world full of opportunity. But as we're going to see, it also brings some pretty serious challenges. So let's dive in. So, what's the real deal with it? Is it this amazing engine for progress, lifting millions out of poverty, and connecting all our cultures? Or is it just a ruthless race to the bottom that hollows out industries and kind of threatens what makes us unique? That is the big question we're digging into today. So, what are we really talking about here? Well, at its core, globalization is all about this growing web of connections. People have been trading and moving around for centuries, right? But the big difference now? The speed of it all. It's off the charts. With modern communication, travel, and business, a factory closing down in one country is directly tied to a new one opening thousands of miles away. It's all linked. Okay, so to really get a grip on how this all works, we need to know who the key players are. And here's the thing, it's not just about countries making deals with each other anymore. Oh no, there are some new, really powerful actors on the world stage. We're basically looking at three major groups. First, you've got your multinational corporations, or MNCs. These are the huge, giant companies that operate all over the world. Then you have non-governmental organizations, NGOs, which are independent groups working on things like human rights or the environment. And finally, you have intergovernmental organizations, IGOs, which are basically clubs that countries can join. And when we talk about power, just look at the money. The annual profit of just one of these giant multinational corporations can be bigger than the entire economy, the GDP, of most countries on the planet. When you have that kind of cash, you have a huge amount of influence on the world stage. No question about it. Now, NGOs, they play this really interesting kind of two-sided role. On one hand, you have groups like Doctors Without Borders, who are an absolute lifeline, right? They provide critical medical care where governments just can't or won't. But on the other hand, by doing that amazing work, they also end up shining a big spotlight on a government's failures, which can create some real tension and even challenge their authority. And then you've got the IGOs. And with these, there's always a big trade-off. See, countries will join something like the World Trade Organization for some massive economic benefits. But, and it's a big but, in return, they have to agree to play by the group's rules. That means giving up a bit of their own national control, their sovereignty. A perfect example is when EU countries adopted the euro. They got a super stable currency, but they lost the power to, set their own monetary policy. All right, so let's flip the coin and talk about the upside of all this interconnectedness. For the people who support it, globalization isn't some kind of threat. It's the gateway to a world just full of incredible opportunity. From an economic standpoint, the case for it is pretty strong. For starters, free trade means we all get to pay less for stuff. And yeah, while some jobs might move overseas, new ones are created in things like service and design, and even in foreign-owned factories opening up right here in the US. And on top of all that, it gives our businesses access to billions of new customers all over the globe. And it's not just about money. There can be political upsides too. Believe it or not, globalization can be a huge force for spreading democracy. Think about it. If an authoritarian country wants all those juicy economic benefits that come with joining a club like the EU, it usually has to clean up its act first. That means meeting certain democratic standards, making their government more open and accountable to its people. And technology, it's a total game changer here. Just listen to this story out of China. After a horrible train crash, officials actually tried to literally bury the evidence, the wreckage itself. But citizens on the scene, they pulled out their cell phones, started sharing pictures, and it just sparked this huge wave of public outrage online that forced the government to admit they messed up and to fire the official in charge. That's citizen power in action. Okay, but for every one of those positive stories, there's a flip side. For a lot of people, globalization has a much, much darker side, one that's about loss, about inequality, and major disruption to their lives. And a huge piece of that negative story is a word we've all heard: outsourcing. It's pretty simple. It's when a company decides to move part of its business, say a factory or a call center, to another country where the labor is a lot cheaper. And well, that often means a lot of jobs get lost back home. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. The numbers are just staggering. Between the years 2000 and 2016 alone, the US lost 5 million manufacturing jobs. For the workers and the communities that were just devastated by that, finding another good-paying job is incredibly, incredibly difficult. This crazy intense competition for business can kick off what a lot of people call the race to the bottom. You've got all these countries trying to attract those big multinational corporations, right? So what do? They might feel pressured to lower their labor standards or weaken their environmental rules. And yeah, that might bring in jobs, but it can come at a really high price for workers and for the planet. Then there's the cultural side of things. There's this real fear that everything will start to look and feel the same, that we'll lose our local character. I mean, think about your favorite local restaurant trying to compete with a global fast food chain, or unique handmade goods being pushed out by cheap, mass-produced stuff. A lot of people worry that this chips away at the very things that make our towns and cultures special. And this might be the scariest part of it all. The very same technology, the same connectivity that lets us do so much good, it can be twisted and used for some really terrible things. Extremist groups can coordinate attacks online. Terrorist organizations can find new recruits from all over the world. And crime syndicates use the dark web to run global markets for drugs, weapons, you name it. So, after all that, where do we land? Well, as you've probably figured out, this whole globalization thing isn't a simple story. There's no clear hero and no clear villain. The reality is just way more complicated than that. I think this quote about the NAFTA trade deal really just nails it. You hear politicians talk about trade and globalization in these black and white terms all the time. It's either a complete disaster or it's a miracle cure for everything. But the truth is almost always somewhere in that messy, complicated middle. So if there's one big thing to take away from all this, it's that you have to be able to see both sides at the same time. Globalization brings both incredible promise and really serious danger. It creates wealth, and it destroys jobs. It connects people, and it empowers criminals. It's just a messy, complicated reality. It's not a simple good versus evil story. Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question. Knowing all of this, understanding the good and the bad of this incredibly powerful force, what's our role in it? How do we, you and me, find our way in this super connected world to try and get more of the benefits while doing less of the harm? That's something for all of us to think about. Thanks for joining me.